You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on Guerrilla Media Network. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna. Today is a very special broadcasting. This is the second hour of Sunday, 1st of February 2015. This segment of this radio show, it is going to be a message in a bottle for posterity and for every American willing and ready to stand for our republic against enemies, foreign and domestic. But not just for the American people, also for every human being around the world who is willing to stand for freedom and for our inalienable rights against the New World Order, also called global government. I will upload this segment of this radio show also on YouTube and ask you, listener, your help to share it, download it, and re-upload it everywhere you can. I realize that more than every day that we are all in danger here. Many of us already died in the past, even in the present, in mysterious circumstances. Why they were trying just to do, they were trying to warn us about the danger of this global tyranny that is already upon us. I'm aware that in the future, this information that I'm going to share with you right now, today, may become illegal. And in some countries, it is already a thought crime. It could put you in jail, so watch it. I mean, you have to decide yourself, even to listen to this information. And now also in these United States of America, under this National Defense Authorization Act, the Patriot Act, we all may be labeled terrorists and may be kidnapped by the government, indefinitely detained, with no access to judge, jury, or due process, and even killed and tortured. This is not a drill. This is not a game. This is our struggle for our republic and for our God-given rights. My name is Luca Zanna, and I have the honor to have with me one of the leaders of the new American Revolution, of this new American resistance against the global government. From Dexter, Michigan, Mark Koernke. Mark, are you there?
Yes, I am, sir. Good evening. How are things going?
Pretty good, my friend. Listen, I want to go straight to business. We already talked about you, and if people for any reason don't know about you, they can Google your name or whatever they want to find out. Today, the focus is going to be this. Today is going to be the show for February the 1st, 2015, and my goal is to create a message in the bottle and 101, Militia 101, how to and why to start a local militia. And this is pretty much going to be, we want to get your information, your brain, your experience to share with the rest of humanity. And the reason why I wanted to do this so urgently, I realized things that are happening. People have started to die like fly out there, mysterious circumstances. And I don't know, things may change anytime. So I wanted to put this out on record. And hopefully we can, use this experience to inspire other people. First of all, Mark, what is the American militia? Let's spell it out to the listeners.
Well, under the guise of, a shield and sword against tyranny, the militia itself is the whole of the people, each individual choosing that because they have a valuable commodity, their life's time, their life's existence, a precious commodity that cannot be replaced, can never be reloaded, that because we do value it, we are willing to fight if need be to defend it. And as an individual, we can do well, but because we have a mutual interest, the militia is a situation where many people of like mind, with the same concern for protecting their liberty, they come together and are willing to physically defend it, and to do it in such a way that there is a winning proposition. See, many hands make for light work. Well, guys, safety and security and your liberty is, secured more efficiently if you have many hands helping to make it happen. And you need to have a mutual interest, and I would say liberty is pretty critical there. So do a lot of Americans for the same reason. And the militia is the whole of the people, all of us, we the people, working to defend our liberty, preserving our freedoms in the process.
Perfect. And this is exactly the point. Because I ask you this because probably many other parts of the world, they don't have this concept of militia. It is in our American history, our American heritage. And but the point is at this point doesn't matter. as a right as a human beings to defend our life and our liberty. And I think every one of you listeners, wherever you are in the world, not just the American people, have the God-given right to defend yourself and your property against this global tyranny. Now, many people may say we don't live anymore in the times of the revolution. We don't need anymore the militia. After all, we have the police, we have the government taking care of us. And of course, this is a rhetorical question. But my question is, why the militia is so important in this modern America?
Well, again, it's a critical check and balance component of any age. Everybody has always screamed these are modern times, and those modern times pass very quickly. Well, it's just simply time and the nature of people. The Founding Fathers, when they looked at the problem, understood, first of all, the threats that they were just on the cusp of, the very edge of. In 1765, 10 years before the outbreak of open and benchmarked hostilities in the colonies, soon to be the United States, a series of actions were taken that could only lead to a specific end result. Period. Not maybe, not kind of, not sort of. Now, a large police force, they had it. A myriad of officers to eat out your substance and to tax you from all directions, they had it. But not in its final form, you see, because the mother country, or the old countries of Europe, already had what they were trying to set upon the colonists. And they would not and could not bear such a yoke. Because understanding the reason for leaving, the places where most every one of the individuals came from, as a family line, or perhaps recently as an individual, they left where they were because of the level of bureaucracy, the taxation, the oppression, the man with the gun ready to put a boot on your neck at a moment's notice. That's why this country was so enticing. This piece of real estate, this land was so enticing. And the process of eventually winning our liberty, fighting for 8 years, at the end of that process, there are a lot of questions that were asked, but one of them is, how do we ensure for as long as possible, or at least as long as we're thinking men, that we don't fall back into that trap? And the understanding was that the checks and balances, which first start with the people, included the process of a well-armed population working in conjunction with its, one man with another to defend their liberty. And the militia's purpose, even today, and it will be tomorrow, and 100 years from now, or even 1,000 years from now, will be no different. Because, unfortunately, where you have positions of power, evil people gravitate to them.
Yes, exactly. And there's another thing I would like to add to this. This is exactly the point. Now more than ever, unless you're a complete zombie, you understand what's going on. This is a new level of tyranny we're living on. We don't know anymore our property. We don't know anymore our body. The government pretty much is the new God, at least that's what they think they are. And it's coming down to a point that, my opinion, we need to use the time we have given right now. We don't know how long. Could be months, could be maybe another year, or maybe it could be more days. I do not know. But things, they are accelerating. As I said, today is February the 1st, 2015, and you know very well that right now, one thing all we should think, regardless your party affiliation, I don't care which party you are, we are living a new America pre-Magna Carta, where any one of us, thanks to the National Defense Authorization Act, can be put in jail indefinitely, not even in jail, in the dungeon indefinitely, with no due process, no access to jury, judge, or trial. That would be enough to make understand that we need a militia to save our own freedom right now. Now, let's go straight to the point, Mark. Time is limited, and I want to at least you give us the foundation how we can start to think, because we cannot touch every topic, but maybe the mindset we can start to approach. How do we start a militia?
Go right ahead. The first thing that I think I would challenge anybody to is to ask the question, who owns you?
Yes.
Are you a free man, or are you a bondsman? Are you property? Are you chattel? Well, in this country, possession still is 9/10 of the law. And as in any era of this nation, the first question is, who owns you? Who owns your life's time? Let's go to another critical small component here that has to be understood. The first thing I would ask for everybody listening is to help us out here. In fact, Luca here needs assistance. I want you to reach into your pocket right now, and I want you to pull out 5 seconds of your life and transfer it to him right now.
Mm.
Can anybody out there do that? You're all thinking, well, wait a minute, you thought I was going to say reach in and give me some quarters or $1. That's part of a translation of something. Time is priceless. Luca, can we get that back? If somebody takes unjustly 5 minutes of my time even, can I get that back?
No.
So that literally is the ultimate priceless piece of private property, isn't it?
Yes.
So how we use our time, people, how we choose, not a king, not a potentate, not a pharaoh, not a commissar, not an emperor, whatever the title, and the titles will change, but they're all the same. A centrist mechanism that believes your time is their time, that your property is their property. Now, when we say property, you're made to believe, at least on the peasant level, that property means things. But all of the things that we own are an extension of our life's commitment to a process of just trade. In other words, I go to work somewhere, or I work for myself, and I exchange so much of my life's time, a priceless commodity, which I cannot exchange. I can't get back. Whatever I trade out, I don't get that back.
Mm-hmm.
I have a physical representation. It can be cats, dogs, it can be clams, it can be silver coin, whatever the currency of the day is that is acceptable in trade for a peaceable process. That's what we accept in exchange so that we don't have to harm other people in the process of developing society and civilization to accomplish something, to get something done, to acquire something that we want. Each person with a skill, each person with a trade, each person with a choice in life that puts them in a niche that makes them productive, that allows them to translate their life's time into the physical world. But here's the thing. Greedy, rotten, monstrous people already know what I'm talking about, but they've tried to brush us away from this thought process because the true nature of tyranny is the sociopathic manipulation of life's time to the point of insane fanaticism.
Mm.
And this in turn translates out that if they can't have your life, they will take your life. And we have seen how many examples of this as an example of a sociopath. See, your life's time, first of all, you have to argue, well, where does it come from? Now, there's people out there that are atheists who are going to say there is no God. But the premise for all of these social structures that argue that your life's time is yours spring from the idea that all of society, all men must answer to a higher calling, a higher being, to God. God is, of course, where is the wellspring of life. Now, because of this, that wellspring of life is linear. Can't loop back. You know what? Let's change this. We just did 20 minutes worth of something. Let's just erase it all and go back, and we'll get that 20 minutes back. We can't do that, guys. Whatever we've chosen to do in our life's time, that decision is final. So first of all, we should be intelligent, responsible, and thoughtful in our processes from the get-go. We must be men of courage, men of conviction. We must be a people set upon a high standard, a moral standard. If we are going to maintain a peaceable society, that must be our credo. And to do that, we have a moral text or a moral guideline that we use. This is the foundation. Just trade, just commerce, justice with regard to the possibility of offenses that may create unjust takings. Example up to and including perhaps murdering somebody. Don't confuse murdering somebody with having to defend yourself in a situation where your life may have been threatened or your property threatened. See, the issue is whether or not you put value on your life's time, which you should. But what's fascinating is the schizophrenia, which makes you believe that your property is something you shouldn't defend. Yet your property is nothing more than an extension of your life's time. Here's the fascinating part. As a peasant, you're told it's only property. I would challenge you today to go down the street to that $2 million mansion with the fences and the guards and jump over the property and tell them, hey, I've just come to pick up a couple of chairs. After all, it's only property. Watch to see if the only property crew, the ones that are telling you, those royalty types, that it's only property when it's theirs, watch and see what happens when you try that.
Yes.
So this is a social schizophrenia. We all are sovereigns. We are all wealthy people. We all have an equal opportunity to decide how we spend our time. But we are all still, somebody always says, well, they put their pants on the same way you and I do, Luca. Well, the fact of the matter is that is true, in that from the get-go, we're all given the same opportunity on this planet. What we choose to do with our time, though, is a personal decision that we must be allowed to make, number one, and that we have a right to make. It's a God-given gift, how we deal with the fruits of our labor. And that's why the militia issue is so important, because there is a balance to the process. There is a nature of predator and prey. There's the natural law that the Founding Fathers talked about, combined with the spiritual / the God, the gift from God and the guidelines that are needed, because we are human beings, not animals.
Yes. And just to let you know, listeners, if you're just tuning in, or if you're just listening to this conversation and this broadcasting, you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna, and our special guest is Mark Koernke from Michigan, Dexter, Michigan. And right now we're talking about the militia, why and how to start a militia. And before we go into the technical part, I think, Mark, what you're saying is very important. Start to understand the philosophical foundation, why we should even bother to organize and even to prepare it and even to engage ourselves and commit ourselves in defending and risking our life for something that's so valuable. It's our life, but also it's our property and our freedom. Now, Mark, to get more specific, for example, let's say I'm a regular guy. I'm just listening. I'm just woke up right now. I was a zombie just still a few years ago, but now, thanks to Obama, I understand that pretty much what's happening here, this is not more Kansas anymore. We're living in a new America with a K. Of course, that was also before with Bush. But let's say I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. I'm just a regular guy working 9 to 5, maybe in a factory. I just woke up a little late, and I say, oh, my God, I need to start a group to try to prepare for what's coming. Tell me, what should I do?
Well, again, we covered the basics with the personal issues. You have to make a decision about whether or not you value your liberty.
Yes.
Whatever actions you take from this point forward, that foundation, you never lose sight of it. You must never separate yourself from it. We're on the moral high ground. As an individual even, just as an individual preparing, you need to immerse yourself in understanding the military sciences. There are the sciences of agriculture, there are the sciences of industry, there are the sciences of interaction with people, and there are the military sciences. Now, I'm going to tell you something. The Founding Fathers immersed themselves beforehand. The regular man on the street, everyone immersed themselves to be balanced as free men. So one of the first things you do is you need to get to reading. Oh, Mark, you're giving me homework. I hate that. Well, maybe not so much. You're not looking for the movie experience. You're looking for the bread and the butter. You're looking for the bone. You're looking for the foundation of developing a process. First, you need to decide, again, to what degree you can participate. Now, there's people who say they're physically handicapped. That doesn't mean you can't participate. And, in fact, just the reverse. There are tasks and jobs, there's work that you can do. If you're young or if you're old, if you're infirm, the work that you do can free up men who are fully capable, who can then join in the fight. So no matter what you are, what place you have in society right now, you can do something. Mm-hmm. The first point, though, is to develop your individual skills. And to do that, you need to read and you need to study. As infantrymen, as the infantryman, as an individual fighter. Now, I'm not talking about going off into the, developing yourself, I'm going to be a special forces, whatever. That's a goal down the road. First, we must immerse ourselves in the basics. This includes at this point, not organization, except for personal organization, which has to do with equipping, outfitting in general, and arming yourself. And once you've made a series of decisions, we could get in more detail on that, but those personal decisions then put you on a path to focus on developing the skills with the tools that you've acquired. There are many different classes out there and different people with different theories. I won't argue the different ideas as far as the basics go, because different people were trained and educated. Many people have military backgrounds. They were trained in different eras. So their concept of how things are done, which was purely a flavor of the day training, okay, will work. Every one of them worked. During the time when each man may have served in the military and somebody's giving you an idea, that process worked. Whether or not it was changed mostly for political or a du jour flavor of the day attitudes. It may have changed because of a perfection of a certain weapon system. But the basics are still there. And developing yourself as a personal rifle marksman, as an infantryman, as a militiaman, is the key to success on the broader scale. And every person listening, if there's 5 of you, 10 of you, 100 of you together, that should be your first concern. Master the basics. Rifle marksmanship, 100 hits. 100 hits with 100 rounds should be your goal. 500 misses do not accumulate to become a positive single hit, guys. This is not a video game, okay? So rifle marksmanship and the ways to perfect that are something that needs to be done. Medical support, nuclear, biological, and chemical defense. We are in the modern / quote-unquote modern age. I always love that one. That'll change depending on what year is coming up next as far as what's modern, and then they'll go right back to the old again and circle around. It's so interesting, and it's fascinating the way things work. But the skills can be perfected, and the basics must be mastered first as an individual. Even if you're by yourself and you're not organized with anyone else yet, those basic skills allow you to integrate with other people of like mind when you find them.
Exactly. So let's start with the basic. First of all, the will and the desire and the understanding why you're doing this. At that point, then, is an individual skill. I mean, before we get integrated with other people, we need to start to do our own homework as individual group. That means as individual cell of ourselves. Now, one thing I would like to remind everybody, I have no military background, but I did a military academy when I was in Italy. I never really went to the full service. I was pretty much all on let's say, rhetorical things, let's more on didactical things. One thing I know for sure, and you confirm this, shotgun is not going to win your freedom. If you have a shotgun home, it may be good for your home defense. If you have a handgun, that may be good for defending your person. You must become a rifleman. That's what Mark was saying, because the rifle is the only tool we have left right now as individual to defend our liberty. So I think at this point, let's talk about rifle, Mark. What is
in the basic? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I would like to ask you. Let's give us a couple options according to the budget. Let's say a working man right now is just waking up, and maybe he's going to have the opportunity to have somebody like maybe a veteran or maybe going through some classes or whatever he can find that can afford, but he needs his first rifle. What type of caliber you suggest? What type of rifle you suggest? And ammunition? How many ammunition you suggest?
Excellent. There are basic rules here in different schools of thought, but there are 2 families of main rifles that would be applied to the militia cause. There are main battle rifles, MBRs. Those are heavy battle rifle calibers, typically weapons that traditionally came out of NATO back in the 50s, but also include the M1 Garand, which is a traditional U.S. military arm going back to World War II. The MBR category are long-range or, again, primary heavy infantry firearms. They can include bolt-action rifles, too, by the way. You're looking at a larger, heavier case. Light rifles, which some people try to call assault weapons, but you and I in America don't have assault weapons because we do not have select fire that we can buy over the counter. Because of that, we have semi-automatic light rifles. These include, for instance, the M16 AR-15 family of rifle, the AK-47 family of rifle in all of its variants. For instance, the Mini 14 in the United States, very common still, which is again in 223, 5.56 NATO. There are a number of other European weapons, HK, SIG Sauer, that are in the same category, but they're minority weapons because of cost. They're quite expensive by comparison. What we're looking at is affordability and commonality for parts and resources right now. And since the average person is, to a degree, been heavily disciplined by, for instance, the light rifles, either the AK or the AR-15 are good starter weapons. The AR-15 has several significant advantages. The AK has several significant advantages. Each have downsides also. Not critical at this point. Understand, if you commit to either of those two light rifle designs, the simplest basic form of the weapon is your first best choice at this point in time, both for cost and for performance. The AR-15, preferably an AR-15 A2, or an A1, an A2, or an A3 flat top would be fine, preferably with a 20-inch barrel. I know everybody's pushing the M4 / the 16.5-inch barrel, but remember, more barrel, more energy, greater range. And again, we're not looking at that much more in the way of weight. After all, the M16A2 is a 7.5-pound rifle.
Yes.
So it's not like it's heavy, guys. In fact, we were argued to buy that rifle for the government because it lightened the infantrymen up, okay? Now, any of these weapons, commonality for parts, magazines, and ammunition are the first issue at this point in time for a person coming in late in the game. The AR-15, standard rifle, whatever model you choose or whatever maybe your cousin Ralph talks you into, because I can't influence you out there. You're going to make those decisions on your own. But a standard rifle, a bare-bones basic rifle would be your best choice. You're on a learning curve. You may not have that much experience with the weapon. You don't need it to be any more complicated than the basic arm, and you have to learn the basics before you advance to the next tier in development, or tiers in development. The standard AK is a fine rifle. It's very serviceable. They're both weapons. The AR-15 and the AK are streamlined. They are very reliable performance weapons. The M16, more maintenance, but while it requires more maintenance, it has a phenomenal magazine well that allows for quick change. This is a big plus for people who don't have as much experience because it's a no-brainer process of reloading the weapon. There are things that need to be remembered about the weapon, do's and don'ts, but an AR-15 can be purchased for a pretty reasonable price right now in its basic form. Magazines are readily available, and ammunition, again, I know people will try to talk you into a lot of other super special bullets, and this one that mushrooms out to the size of a grenade. Basics. Ball ammunition should be your first choice, your purchase choice. Ball ammunition, because it functions in every weapon flawlessly. What we mean by ball ammunition is FMJ / military service ammunition. The reason? Reliability. As a new shooter, if you don't have as much experience, you need to be focusing on putting the bullet on the target. Any distractions, such as failure to feed or malfunctions in the weapon, will, of course, disrupt your thought processes. And the less experience you have, the more likely they can be catastrophic, in other words, deadly on the battlefield. So we want everything in its basic form streamlined to the simplest system possible. At this point in time, again, if you buy the AR or the AK, I recommend a minimum of 20 magazines for the weapon. The cheapest but reliable is what you need to be looking at. There are quantity price deals you can make. Carve out the money from your budget and at least pick up at least 20 mags. And remember the basic rule: with magazines and ammo, more is better. How many should I have? As many as you can afford.
Yes, and I would like to say something, Mark. What you say is very important. First of all, one thing my experience. No matter what rifle you have, the most important weapon is yourself. We are the weapon. The rifle is just an extension of our will and our desire to defend our liberty. Because you can be even, let's say, having a bolt-action Mosin gun, but if you're trained, and more important, you're determined, you're not going to give up your life and your rights without a fight, I think you're much more dangerous than probably some guy out there with a $4,000 SCAR or some fancy rifle that pretty much have no desire and no training. So regardless what rifle you can afford, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the most important thing is train with what you have, be proficient,
exactly.
And more important, have the will, have your mind clear, made already your decision what you're going to do when you have to do it. Otherwise, if you're going to think then, when the things are happening, it's going to be too late, and that time is going to cost you probably your life. So this is my personal experience. I already made up my mind on things I'm going to do and things I'm not going to do before things may happen. Try to visualize. And I'm not saying that this is going to be like written in stone. We are human beings, okay? We have weaknesses. But at the same time, we at least start to prepare our soul, our mind for scenarios. And I think this is for me the most important weapon, having my mind prepared. Mark, when you say about ammunition, as many as you can afford, I completely agree with you. And if people they're saying, these are tough times, guess what? Prioritize. Maybe you should start to do some budget. Remove that expensive coffee stop during the morning and put the money aside. Maybe don't go for a vacation. There is no excuses. There are so many opportunities still out there. And I would like to share one thing that, Mark, probably you agree. One of the most affordable rifle out there still, it's a Mosin Nagant. For less than $130, you can get a battlefield rifle with very affordable ammunition. What do you think about that?
Oh, yes. In fact, very affordable ammunition. One of the nice things, too, is most of the ammunition that's coming out this fall in the NAGOT ammunition, if you're looking at, for instance, AK ammo and even much of the European ammo, it's coming in ham tins that are sealed from the environment and were packed for time. So you've got a great storage system already in place. Make sure you get the can openers to go with the cans. Mm-hmm. That way you can open them up. But as long as it's stored like that, you don't have to change a thing. Just open a can up to know what's in one of them, repackage that into a 30 caliber or a series of 30 caliber ammo cans, and now you have ammunition for familiarization and training, and you know that whatever's in the rest of the cans matches what you've trained with.
Yes. So the point is, as many ammo as you can afford. And of course, don't think just because you have 1,000 rounds stashed under the bed, you're set. This is just to give you an idea. Think that the world could stop tomorrow, could end tomorrow. And what if you cannot afford anymore, or there are no more ammunition available for sale? That's all you're going to have. So try to prioritize that. And I like the Mosin Nagant 762x54R because you can get for the same type of a performance of a 308. Normally it's about almost $1 now if you get the good stuff in brass. You can get this for a fraction of a price. And we're talking about probably about 25 cents a round. And the good thing that many of these military surplus 762x54R, they're also steel core, something that you cannot find anymore in regular full metal jacket 308. So it's something to consider if you're on budget. But whatever you like, whatever you're comfortable, stock up. When I mean stock up, as Mark said, as much as you can afford after you pay your basic bills. Mark, what people sometimes forget, I go to the range and I see, yeah, they have a rifle, they got some ammunition, but then I don't really see their mindset. I don't see how they can even think they're carrying the rest of what they need. We're talking about gear. What do you need?
Again, most important here is we tailor our combat gear to match the weapon we've chosen. If you pick up that Mosin Nagant rifle, there are pouch systems for the ammunition that match that weapon. You need to tailor your combat load to match the weapon system you're going to use. If you buy a Nagant, then you need short magazines, and an assault mag vest like you see with deep pockets, long, narrow pockets, isn't going to make it, guys. It doesn't serve your purpose. A lot of the Mali gear and the older World War II, Korean War and Vietnam era stuff will work just fine. So you tailor your combat gear to fit the budget, something you were just talking about there. I don't have much money. We understand that. Look in the clearance, look in the closeouts, watch for U.S. military pistol belts, watch for web gear, the suspenders, and progressively put a system together. You can do it bargain basement. But the important thing is that the weapons support system, the pouches or magazine pouches or ammo rings, depending on what you're committing to, how big the shell is, whatever you're going to do, you make sure that that system matches, because operations in the field, nanoseconds, seconds, microseconds, moments count. And you need to be, first of all, developing your system, learn to operate the system and adjust the system so it fits you. You know, my arms are fairly long. My wife's arms aren't. So how I establish and put her gear together, her personal equipment together, it has to be designed so she can reach it and use it. Always remember that part of the program. You've got to make it fit you. You don't try to reach it. You need to try to make the system fit you. If you're older, or if you're smaller and you're handicapped or something, you can adjust your equipment accordingly to meet your needs. Don't just take, look at a program or something and they say, do it this way. Well, do it that way, but you need to be able to adjust so that you can operate the equipment, or it doesn't serve your purpose. Affordability, guys, that you can spend whatever money you want on combat gear, web gear. There are two packages. There's what we call the combat load and the house load.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the house load's your backpack. The combat load is what supports your weapon and gives you some of the basics so that you can continue to fight effectively. And there's a lot of nice equipment out there that's not brand new. It's not the latest, greatest. But you know what? It was built by either the Americans or by a military that required a specific standard. So that older surplus is probably better built than the new stuff coming out of the machines today. So just because it's older doesn't mean it's by any stretch of the imagination outdated or ineffective. In fact, just reverse, it'll probably last longer than the newer stuff maybe you were looking at or shopping for in the latest spring catalog.
Okay, Mark, another thing now. At this point, as I said, this hour is going to be condensed. We're trying to get the basics out. And of course, you need to find your way to pretty much master the topics. We're talking about the rifle. We're talking about the gear. We're talking about the ammunition. We talk about, of course, your will and understanding why you're doing all this. Now we're talking also another thing. In the average infantry, the basic three skills we have in any type of combat infantry, doesn't matter which type of military force, it is pretty much shoot, move, and communicate. We're talking about the shooting. Now we talk about the communication. There are many ways, but we must create a way of communication among each other. What do you have to say about this?
There are the options to go to small FRS or handheld radios of many different types. A lot of them are China sport made. In fact, a big chunk or lion's share of them are now. But this makes the equipment or the technology accessible and quite affordable. Personal radios for talk and squawk, or in other words, to fire and maneuver, are certainly a solution. You do also need to develop first the basic both hand communication and a method, a standard for talking even. This is something in the military you're taught, that, it's, move out, I got you covered, cover me, I'm moving out. There is a process that each part that you develop and everybody is able to communicate so they understand that the action is taking place. So you need to know how to communicate, and you need a standard. The military application standards are pretty well consistent, so take a look at those, and you'll get a better understanding of what we're talking about. But radio communications means that rather than shouting 100 yards, I'm able to quietly go click, 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 click with a receiver. I don't even have to talk. And I can give a signal to a man 100 yards away, and we can be on the same path to victory.
Very important, very important. Now, we were talking about books to read. I'm just a student here, but in my little research the last few years, I found two books that probably you're familiar with, Mark. And let me tell you which books I found that they are pretty much important, at least to my experience. One was called, you can find it everywhere, also on Amazon. And please, people, write it down. At least take a look at that. It's called Light Infantry Tactics for Small Teams by Christopher Larson. Light Infantry Tactics for Small Teams. I don't know. I found it pretty interesting, pretty basics, but at least for me was some sort of a good basic information. Did you ever heard about that, Mark?
It's an excellent text, and I recommend the guys, you put it in your home pack. If you've got the small paperback, you can actually, remember also, if you get it in computer, guys, you can print it to whatever size you want. Good. So here's a little trick. We call them quarter pagers. Okay, take a 8.5 by 11 and cut it into four uniform pieces. Now think about taking the computer printout version of this text and doing it as a manual. You'll have to adjust the font, and then you'll just print it out in however many pages it takes. It may not match up with the regular page format. But the idea behind it is you can make a small pocketbook that you can actually transport and study as you go and use as a model. And that's one of the things I would do with that book. It can be carried as is. The big thing is that especially small unit operations, from the man, we have to go to the team. And that's where small unit operations come in. The fire team and the squad are the basic component. The platoon's the next size up, and company, which is the platoon are typically 4 squads. The company is typically 4 platoons. And as I pointed out many times, for those of you who don't understand military structure, understand that it is biblical. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to give you another homework assignment. Go to your Bible, go to the Exodus from Egypt, and look up that little conversation that became the guidelines for the structuring of the tribes, where Moses' father-in-law confronted him about what he was doing and how he was running things. And when you read that, if you're a former military man, you'll go, that's where they got that from. So see how old that is? How long ago was the Exodus from Egypt? Well, I'd say that's a while back. And yet the basic rules for manpower management have not changed through the ages. There are variations, and this is what I was saying before. You know, for instance, if you were to pick up a World War II manual from the Marine Corps, 1941, they would tell you that a fire team is 3 men, and that a squad is made up of three three-man fire teams and a squad leader. If you were to pick up a manual for standard infantry in 1964, for Europe, they would tell you, or for any battlefield with American forces, they would tell you that a fire team is 5 men with a fire team leader or a squad leader, and each 5-man team and 2 5-man teams making a squad. But if I was mechanized, I'd be told I only have 4 men in a fire team, and one of those guys is the fire team leader, and then on the other 4-man team, well, wait a minute, I lost a couple guys. However you choose to format your structure when you go the next step, when you go from being a person to organizing your men, that's a personal flavor choice that I'm not going to worry about because we'll work it out in the long run. The big thing is that you pick a direction with a standard, and that once you establish it, perfect yourself in the use of that technique with that system.
Perfect. Another book I would like to talk to you, Mark, and tell me if it's okay. It's called Total Resistance is a mayor from the Swiss Army, von Dack.
Yes.
And was one of the first books I read about 10 years ago, and I think it's a great manual to at least have the mindset, all the things you're saying here. You don't need to be just a young man fit to go to ready to defend your freedom. Every one of us, from the youngest to the oldest, we all can have a role. And that's what I really like about this book. This is something that the people can write it down, Total Resistance by von Dack. And what I'm saying, these guys, buy these books now. Today is 2015, and as I said, February the 1st, but in a few years from now, maybe a few months from now, we don't know. In many parts of the world, by the way, you cannot buy these books if you're a civilian. It would be considered a thought crime. So do everything you can to get your information now and share it. What do you think?
Total Resistance I highly recommend that book also because it gives you the basics to understand, it helps you to understand paraconventional and guerrilla warfare as an extension of any conventional operation. Paraconventional and unconventional. You won't see that term in that particular manual, but that's what they're talking about. Total resistance is the idea that every man is part of the fighting force. The true militia is every able-bodied man. And everybody can contribute to the battlefield, and that accumulative action is what creates victory, that focus, that mutual mindset.
Yes.
No matter how long it takes, we will win.
Exactly. So it starts all with the individual. No matter if you are alone, somewhere living in the mountain, or maybe strapped in some town or some city, if you believe that you are ready for the task, it starts with you. And that's my point. But it would be good to think, Mark, at least when you have the foundation, the couple, the team, the 2 people, it's the basic foundation on any type of military operation, correct? To find the body.
Exactly. The other thing about being by yourself is that for the time being you can do that. But remember that an army of one soon becomes an army of none after the first 72 hours. At some point you have to sleep, guys. And while certainly you might have eyes in the back of your head I don't know about, the bottom line is that cooperative mutual support means that you have the ability to extend your performance and your strength, and your survivability is increased dramatically. Remember that this is a 24-hour clock when you're looking at a battlefield environment. You're looking at an invader that plans on trying to catch you unawares. And so what logic are they using? Well, they understand fatigue, they understand performance, they understand weapon systems. They're going to try to play those cards. you need to be prepared. So this is where we get into the next step, the next process of working as a team and understanding how to husband your energy. It's a matter of focusing, first of all, husbanding / controlling, and then focusing energy. That's what the effective warrior is all about. Taking, as you said earlier, Luca, this is one of the big things too. Is again, the weapon in a man's shoulder, whatever weapon you can put to your shoulder, can bring you victory. It's the mindset behind bringing that weapon to its full fruition, to being able to take that weapon and make it perform, to accomplish a short-term goal, to get you to the next goal, which will get you to a greater goal, which will help you to complete the final goal or the overall mission statement. Example, maybe I don't have as good a weapon, but you see that guy over there that I'm aiming at? He's got the next weapon I'll be carrying.
Exactly. So this is important. No, like this is happening in every part of human resistance against tyranny. Doesn't matter if it was a foreign invasion or was a tyrannical domestic tyranny. The point is the tools that we have today may be just tools that we need to get other tools that we may get from the enemy. That's the point. So don't get discouraged right now that you don't have the rifle of your dreams or you don't have the gear that you dream. At the point, if you have the will, if you have enough training with whatever you have, this is good enough. Because the point is, Mark, in every type of scenario that we may face as American people or human beings being pretty much under the threat of a tyrannical government or even just an invasion, we all never going to have a chance to go face to face with the enemy. Our goal is try to work as an asymmetrical warfare. That means we're going to go in pretty much in guerrilla warfare mode. So it's not going to be like we have to put tanks against tanks, correct?
It'll vary depending upon what you can access from the enemy and how you work the environment. And this is where, even if you can access a heavier weapon, remember the basic rules of guerrilla warfare. If you can't use it, you burn it. But if you can use it, you use it until you have to burn it. In other words, if I could acquire a tank, if you were overrunning a position and you've got a bunch of, bodies hanging around the equipment and you just took it by storm and it's functional and running, well, you run it until it runs out, and then you burn it when you're done with it. But you use it to, the best advantage you can in the short term to do the most damage, to do, take their weapon and use it against them. Or, if need be, take the weapon, carry it away, cache it, and use it in the future. In the paraconventional is where, again, we're still using, and we always will use, whatever weapons are at our disposal. We will pull them into service. But we may, again, the term husband, in other words, manage or control and hold in reserve a certain amount of force until we've built up sufficient force to use those combined weapons to a more effective final end. But if you capture it, if all else fails, if there's 100 rounds there, why not dump 100 rounds downrange on your enemy? Well, that's kind of overkill. Yeah, but it's free. In other words, there's a dozen mortar rounds sitting there. You have the ability to crank that mortar round and dump it on the bad guys. If you do know what you're doing, the fuse setting, there's a bunch of things you need to learn. But if you know what you're doing, you swing it around and you dump those rounds. Maybe you grab that mortar, you drag it away, grab the tube and drag it away. You'll use it in the future. Maybe even a few of the rounds. But burn what you can't carry away. In other words, use it. And if you can't use it, deny leaving it, to the enemy, that you just took it from. Don't let them get it back.
Perfect.
That's part of unconventional warfare 101 that everybody needs to remember. Use it on them. Use it on them hard. Make it so messy and nasty and horrible that, well, they're really not going to like the idea of proceeding with whatever they're doing, because that's what warfare is all about. Their logic is that they're going to oppress us to the point where we're going to bow to their tyranny and lick their boot. Well, in the long run, no matter how we look at it, that's fatal. In the earlier phases, it's, a certain amount of accommodation to convince you to put lay down your weapons and become their property. But once you've laid down your arms, there is no two sides to the negotiation, and it is inevitable. It is not an if. It is only a when lethal force will be used against you.
Mark,
if you decide to be disarmed. Go ahead.
Do you agree that try to avoid to be infiltrated, or even just to have people that, we are human beings. We have different personalities. We may sometimes want all the same goals, and we may have the same type of, desire to be free and to fight together. But sometimes we have different personalities. So don't you think maybe it's a good idea to try to keep the squad, or at least the group, small at least as you can, and always start from bottom up, never from top bottom.
Exactly. One of the things to remember here is small unit operations that progressively build. Don't become so big. Always remember that if you as a smaller institution, you eventually will accumulate people as you become more successful or as you find more people of like mind. The small unit formation is still the element that will be typically victorious against the big guy, because small units can infiltrate and exfiltrate. They can disperse and then reorganize at their discretion, strike where they choose to, and leave again. Most important is that you find people of like mind. And you have to be, as a leader, if you're going to first develop, and you're going to be a team leader. I notice I didn't say general or captain. The key word here is manager/leadership. And what we're looking at is sculpting our formation. You need to find people first of like mind. You need people that will stay focused. You have to be able to gauge people. In other words, you have to evaluate people, understand what their strengths and weaknesses are. Some people will never be riflemen. This is why we have what's called a combined arms team, and why we joke about the term spraying and praying. There are some people who just can't get behind a weapon and keep those sights on target. But you know what? You put them behind a belt-fed gun, and they can kind of golf ball the stuff where it needs to go. Well, you find what the performance level of each individual is, and you tailor them into a stronger overall body.
Exactly. And thing, Mark, I'm sure you agree. The point is, it's not just about shooting, also it's about logistics. I mean, we are pretty much in charge of our own selves. It's not like the professional army that they have a bunch of slaves behind washing their clothes, dishes, and, feeding them and all these things. We must take care of ourselves. So it is important, no matter how old you are, you can help with logistics, correct?
Exactly. Everybody can be part of the deep logistics train. Remember, logistics is the key to victory. If you do not have that logistic train, available where it's needed, then you're going to see hardship and losses that are that aren't necessary. Prior proper planning is most critical here. All of you older people and many younger people, or again moms that are going to be taking care of the families, the men of the household would be fighting. There are things that can still be done. Food production, medical support. There are so many overlapping subjects that need to be dealt with. I would point out again, too, that with regard to the infrastructure, even in the field, radio operator, a person that can handle a radio or can at least monitor. You don't have to be talking, but you need to have an ear. Perfecting those skills now will assist to, again, take people away from tasks that allow them to be up front, and the healthiest, the strongest, the ablest can move forward and project our energy, our strength against the enemy. All of you can be part of this operation. And let me give you an example of where you have to balance this. There are doctors that are pissed at what they see going on right now. This Obamacare thing, for instance, really PO'd a lot of people. They've organized into the militia. And again, I'm sure that they're good riflemen. They have the money and they have the resources. They have great tools. They've spent the money where they need to. But do you really want that trauma surgeon that can keep Luca alive if he's hurt? Is the doctor more valuable as a rifleman, or is he more valuable in that trade that he has perfected? A surgeon is a priceless individual, very difficult to replace, and in a very specialized, skilled trade. He can keep 100 or 1,000 of my warriors alive.
Yes.
And while they might not be perfect, they can get back out on the battlefield and help to contribute to the victory. So that's where the balance is. We've always joked, I'd take that doctor out. It'd be like big game hunting. I'd take a slot out, give the doctor his rifle, and say, okay, shoot a couple if you want, but we got to get back to work. I got to get you back to the hospital or get you back to the bunker. Because that doctor is so much more valuable. All of you, almost everybody has their own skill. Some of you have priceless skills, though, that are so critical that first we need you to perform them for us, and then we also need you to teach other people to do the same thing.
Yes, and just to let you know, guys, if you're listening to this broadcasting, no matter if today or in the future, This is the person is talking right now to you is Luca Zanna, and my guest and my friend, and really what many inspire me to really get involved into this is Mark Koernke from Michigan, and we are doing this for sharing a message, try to put out a blueprint, or at least to give you some input how you can develop the skills to defend humanity and defend our freedom, and of course for Americans, our republic against global government and any type of enemy, foreign or domestic. We're talking about how to start and organize a militia. Mark, talking about the situation of tactical advantage, secrecy or no secrecy. For example, here in Arizona, it is in our state constitution. I am not shy to say that every one of us, every man over 18 till 45, and of course even more if you want to, you automatically part of the militia. At the same time, even I'm not apologetic about this, I believe that to keep privacy, to keep the element of stealth, to not give the enemy the advantage to know what's going on, I believe that secrecy could be a good edge. What do you think about this?
And it is a viable solution to dealing with being able to organize effectively and quietly by recruiting based upon word of mouth and individuals that you know. Approach them and ask questions. And you may be surprised at the response that you're going to get from different individuals, some positive, some negative. This is where we've talked about, again, the water finding its own level. You are looking for people who are of like mind. You need hard chargers. You want people that are focused. They do not have to be physically perfect. Again, I don't care the mindset. I'd rather have a person with a good mindset with some kind of physical limitation as opposed to somebody who's frivolous and is thinking of this as a 2-hour movie where it's going to be a part-time job and we can go party hardy over here and order pizza and then we're going to go and play some more. This is an adult issue is the only way to describe it, and we have a lot of good people out there who are on the same page as we are. They need to be sought out. You carefully and meticulously, step by step, go through the process of building that fire team of 5 men. Notice I didn't say building an army of 40 or 100. A quality group of 5 individuals from the get-go gives you a solid core, an anvil, a foundation to start with. Each of these individuals you have high confidence in. Now, I would say from the get-go, we do not need explosives. You do not need machine guns. You do not need short-barrel anythings. Those are the most common tricks the bad guys will play within our circles, or has tried to. They haven't been successful all the time. But the basic rule is, again, the concept of the primary battle rifle, whatever you choose, its normal length, is going to be not just sufficient, but you will find out eventually is preferred. Eventually you will see that whatever your enemy has will become yours. And the earliest phase, remember, your enemy is nothing but a mobile resupply pod to be stripped down to his underwear when the time comes.
Mark.
And you'll even take the underwear because you need gun cleaning rags.
The hour is already gone, but I would like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to take 1 second break, and I want just to keep you for 5 more minutes. Please, listeners, don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. Today is a special broadcast, Sunday the 1st February 2015, and my special guest is Mark Koernke from Michigan. So don't go away, stay tuned. We are back. Mark, there is so much, but we try to do what we can in the limited time. One thing I wanted to ask you before I let you go. At this point, you were talking about how to try to avoid to be infiltrated, how to avoid to be set up. The enemy always trying to find a way to set us up. We don't need to do anything illegals. Even, of course, in my opinion, what they've done to us, it's illegal. I mean, 1934, the first gun Control Act was illegal, but regardless, we play by the rules, so we don't give them the edge to try to put us in this type of situation. Now, one thing I want to ask you, Mark, I heard one time a YouTube of yours a few years ago, pretty much in your experience, according to your vision, how all this is going to happen. I mean, we're talking about right now for America, our country, and how things may start. We know that we are really close. My opinion, we are like probably not even more a minute from midnight. It's like 30 seconds. Anytime we could pretty much reach that time. How you think, how you, in your vision, according to your experience and your guts, how you think it's going to start?
Well, as I see it, especially with the present scenario, obviously Connecticut and New York, they've already passed the anti-gun laws. The foot should have already fallen within the last 2 years. We're now coming up on the second anniversary year of the passage of the Connecticut, the abhorrent and unlawful Connecticut gun laws that were passed without anybody reading them. Remember, that was the big brag. Well, they passed it under the assumption that we were all just going to be stupefied peasants and just say, please take our weapons. Now, Connecticut is not a very big state, but at some point, they're going to have to either do or not do. And the internationalists have already told you that they've passed the international, small arms gun ban treaty, arrangement. We're not part of that as far as the people go, even though the corporation, the president of the corporation, Barry Soetoro, has, gone along with it. He didn't sign for us, he signed for himself and for the corporation. Now, possession's 9/10 of the law, but the bottom line is, everything has been frozen for this 2-year period. They're going to come out and try to take the guns to kowtow the population, to cow the population down to demand that we supplicate before the altar. Now, it's not going to happen. And what's going to take place is the population is going to be, hit somewhere. Probably more than one location. Watch for JTF and MJTF operations, Joint Task Force and Multi-Jurisdictional Task Force operations. When one of the states is hit, it will not just be the state, it will be the Fed and internationalists attacking at the same time. Now, whoever's being accosted, whoever's being assaulted, will probably fight, which will initiate at least a contact point. Most likely, the way that it's going to really escalate is that somebody's going to call Fred. Fred's going to call Bill. Bill's going to call Luca. Luca's going to call Mark. Mark's going to call John. Everybody's going to be talking about it. A bunch of people are going to jump in their trucks or jump in their military vehicles that they've already purchased, squared away, and they're set up as infantrymen. And there's going to be a bunch of people going to help, Jeff and Bill over and Bob over in Connecticut at a farm or a neighborhood. And somewhere where another column of, black uniformed secret police are moving in another direction, they're going to meet at an intersection nobody's ever heard of. And there's going to be a bunch of shouting and screaming and crazy, nonsense from the knuckle-dragging, secret police. And the people on the other side are really not going to put up with much of it. And someone's going to pull the trigger, and it's going to escalate there very quickly. And it is going to be a very sharp, nasty confrontation. It won't make any difference who pulls the trigger, but I'll put money on it. It'll be just as likely one of our people as one of theirs, because everybody is tired of this nonsense. That will escalate very quickly across the borders and outside of Connecticut or outside of New York. And it will not be like Connecticut, or forgive me, like the Battle of Lexington and Concord. Although the word on that traveled instantly. Imagine it moving even faster in moments as people even get a chance to see live feeds of the exchange of fire. If everybody can have the opportunity to do that, people off to the side will be taking pictures and passing the information on, and there'll be irrefutable evidence that a war has begun.
Mark,
that's what everybody needs to be prepared for, because you won't be able to stop it. What you'll have to do is fight it and win it. I'm
concerned that since these people that pretty much now with technology, computer systems, and also learning from the mistake of past, they have a bunch of team of people that they're trying to analyze every scenarios. I am concerned that, first of all, communication is going to be shut down. So we're not going to be able to have the regular internet or cell phones or phones to call each other. So we better start to think some other alternative ways to communicate. And
Absolutely.
I also believe that another thing that right now, especially with call me conspiracy theories, call me crazy, but I have some dreams about this few months ago. You remember very well that during the last census in 2010, for the first time in American history at least, we had every household was GPS. You remember that? We have that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we reported on it. It was happening every step of the way. Even confronted some of the people that were doing it.
GPS is a military tool. I mean, I don't see any other reason why the government should know exactly with the 1 feet, error distance. Exactly where is my front door, and
they attached it to your name.
Exactly.
Remember that, because the census is attached to your name.
Exactly. So we have a GPS situation. Then we have 2 years ago, Congress sold out one more time. And with Obama, for the first time now, we have over 30,000 drones legally, between quotes, that pretty much can be over our U.S. skies. And, when you put the drones and you put the GPS together, and you put maybe a facial recognition, or just you give them a mission with an address, I mean, I am concerned that when the enemy will try to strike, will strike well less we expected, and they already have, a list that we well know. And probably people like me or you, I'm nobody, but just the fact I'm here with you, talking with you over this radio, and just the fact that the books that I talk and the letters to the editor, doesn't matter. We're all somehow on a list at different levels. But I believe that they will try to pretty much cut the heads of people like us before even we can wake up in the middle of the night. I'm concerned about that. What do you think?
Well, the thing is that, again, the technology is there, but we have counter technology that's much more affordable, cheaper, that could knock down most of it in a few moments. The thing is we need to be prepared or ready to at least get the working knowledge out there and have some of the technology in motion. Microwave, the standard house microwave can be built into a weapon that will virtually EMP out anything that they've got that's flying that's small like that. They can't protect it or armor it enough. In order for it to be able to work the way it did, they went with microchip and very light electronics. Because of that, they're very susceptible to radar cannons. And radar cannons would be one of the several high priorities in the early stages. Now, before we go that far, though, let's remember what you were just talking about when I discussed the point of contact reference, how it'll start. In the initial phase, for a short time, there will be a confusion window. Now, if they can, they'll regionally shut something off, but there's too much overlapping technology that we have, that people have that are in, the Patriot movement, and just in general the population, that the message will get out. And, in fact, the more blurred it is, the more deadly it is for the regime. Because probably the best example is, remember, before we had Lexington and Concord, we had Salem. Now, if everybody thinks it's impressive that the Patriot movement responded with 20,000 people on the road in Lexington and Concord, when the British went to Salem before that, the argument is up to 40,000 people responded. Even more men responded to the action for Lexington and Concord than responded the day that Lexington took place, April 19th, 1775. And the biggest concern here was, again, how did the message get out? Well, it got out word of mouth. And what made it worse is that even though nobody had been shot, by the time the word got past the first town, the argument was that people had been shot in Salem. So people en masse and came forward, bayonets ready, guns ready, and were hunting for a contact to make, put a bullet in them. That was already the case before we got into the official start-off for the American War for Independence. And I think it would be worse for them today, because the ability to sortie in and pick your target, if it's one-sided and they played, European police state like in communist Russia, that would be one thing. But in America, number one, every one of you, if you were to arm up right now, you typically will have a better weapon than the soldier that you're facing. And I'm going to tell you this, like, the more that you get, the bigger the Army, like when you get in the Army and the Marine Corps and all that, guys, they don't like to clean their weapons. Your personal firearm, you sculpted it, picked it, chose it, bought it, you bought a barrel you liked, you bought the magazines you liked, you bought the weapon that fits and works. They've got to take what comes off the rack. Do you see the difference between the two right off the bat?
Yes.
And now, because of that, we actually have superiority in performance with our arms. Even your basic deer rifle has superior performance to the average infantry rifle, even as a machine gun, an assault rifle. Why? Because, well, many of the men who would come with that rifle have killed how many deer over 20 or 30 years, and probably a few people, because typically they're veterans too.
Yes, and that's
So
true. This is true. At the same time, the element of we live in our households. We have a regular life, most of us at least. And the point is, where you sleep, I don't care how good you are, but if I had to visualize, if I was the enemy, okay, if I were the enemy, excuse me, and I would go try to get this country from with force. I would
catch it unawares.
Yes,
That's the
I would.
term.
First
Catch
of
it
all,
unawares.
you need to find out exactly who are the targets, and then take them like when you are a fox, you want to be sure that you go slowly, slowly. You get one chicken at a time. You don't want to wake up the rest of the family of the chickens out there. So you're gonna get them in a way that almost pick them out one by one. And when you think you have probably, I don't know, we already have, very well in China, excuse me, in Hawaii, for the first time of American history, 2 years ago, in December 2 years ago, this administration pretty much gave, we have Chinese troops exercising in Hawaii on U.S. soil. And you know very well that FEMA, 2 years ago, always with this administration, they had an official agreement with the Russian troops that in case of any emergency, they can use Russian troops to pretty much control the safety of our streets. And people, if you think we are a bunch of crazy here and talking about strange things, what I've just told you, just the fact that FEMA, and it's official from FEMA website, okay, this is not some conspiracy theorist website, from FEMA.gov. You're still able to find it. There was a great article from the New American Magazine. FEMA now has an agreement with Russian troops that pretty much if there is an emergency in America, on American soil, they will use Russian troops to keep the peace. Think about this. That would freak you out, especially after you know who we have right now sitting in the White House. So the point is, you don't think that our soldier would never do that. There is not going to be any more our soldiers. Probably they are somehow in Korea, or maybe they're going to be in Germany. We're going to be far away, like many of them already are. So that's my point, Mark. I believe that this is going to be more important, the timing, and trying to understand, try to smell the wind, things before happening. Maybe it's time to have another location as a B plan in case something happens or we smell that something's going to happen. Maybe we shouldn't stay in our regular home waiting for things to come to us.
Absolutely. One of the things to remember is that's the retreat concept, but it doesn't even have to be on your piece, on a piece of property that you own. Remember, if you have friends, family, Uncle Fred may have a large farmstead in Wisconsin or Michigan or wherever, if you're in Michigan or if you're in Pennsylvania. Well, hey, I'd like to put a little hunting cabin back in the back 40 there. Is it okay? Now what you do is, before everything goes too far, you dig that little bunker underneath, or at least a cache underneath that little cottage that you're going to build, and you put it inside the tree line so it's hard to see. You build it during the summer when you have overhead cover, if at all possible. And that way, by the time it's done and in place, it has that Star Wars lived-in look. It looks like it's been there the whole time. The big thing is that if you do this, the recommendations, a quick read, a good read is Patriots, Surviving the Coming Collapse by James Wesley Rawls.
Yes.
That's an excellent book. There's a whole bunch of other books that he's written, and it is an excellent text that should be on your library shelf, your private library, and you should make sure that every family member reads it.
Yes, this is very important. So just start to think, guys, don't put all your eggs in the same basket. Start to think about what if really you had to leave your place and your life is more important than any materialistic things you have. You must survive to fight another day. So don't leave all your efforts, all your sacrifice, and the things you have in one place. Spread it around and have a big place. Mark, so much to say. All I want to say thank you. It's been an honor at least to have met you in this life. And thank you for inspiring me to at least be awakened. This has happened a few years ago for me. And I hope we're going to really probably listen to this broadcasting a few years from now. And maybe we're going to be saying, wow, we were worried and we found a way to fix things in a different way. And I really pray for that. I always pray for peaceful solutions. But at the same time, I cannot be ignoring the reality that we have around us. And I really think, according to the facts and the logic, that are really only a miracle can save us now to something that it's happening and there is no way to stop it. And the only way we're going to make it better is going to be almost to push the reset button. That's what I believe. And it's not even going to be us pushing for that. They will go pushing it to us. I believe that they're going to force us to do things that we don't want to do. This is really what I feel as a human being right now, also as an American, because, you know, I have no other options. There is no place to retreat, and retreat is not an option. I've been around the world. I chose this place, and I'm telling you guys, if you think that you're going to just pack your stuff and go somewhere else, there is nowhere to go. This is the last place you have. First of all, it's our God-given right to do it, and also it's our duty. And even if you never did took an oath as a soldier or as a peace officer, it is your duty as American to stand up for our republic. Mark, I like so much when you say you end your shows with your mythological, your phrase that I would like to you say one more time about, you know, we shall prevail and all these things, but you say better than me. Please go ahead, give me one.
Very good. God bless the Republic. Death to the New World Order. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The empire is on the run, and we're on the march. Kicking them every step of the way on down the road, right to the coast and beyond. Thank you, sir.
And this was Mark Koernke, and I am Luca Zanna, and you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you, sir.
If you love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude than the animated contest of freedom, go from us in peace. We ask not your counsels or arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains sit lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you were our countrymen. The line in the sand, you know the time is coming. The line in the sand, are you going to watch while we're fighting? The line in the sand, just tell me now where you're going to stand. How much more you're gonna take it? How much more you're gonna fake it? Now you decide what you'll do when they come. They'll come for you.
You see things are getting rough. They're getting rough. Line in the sand. Now's our time to stand. Time to stand. Our freedom is gone and you bought it. Don't close your eyes and ignore it. Are you so blind? Can't you see? Seconds before midnight.